Previously on agentpalmer.com, another cup of coffee with me, Agent Palmer. What's Next taught me even more about West Wing's legacy, and Kevin continues to share old handhelds with new audiences. This is the Palmer Files, episode 158 with Laura Eppler, who I've known for quite a while and who's become a very good friend. But she's here on the show to discuss her second career as an officiant. In fact, just over 1 year ago from the release of this episode, she married Stef and I in our backyard. We discussed that second career, plus boredom, writing, and divert into a tangent or two. Are you ready? Let's do the show! Hello and welcome to the Palmer Files. I'm your host, Jason Stershic, also known as Agent Palmer, and on this 158th episode is Laura Eppler. It feels like I've known Laura forever. I know that that's not the case. She has known my parents for a long time, and I know in recent memory when I was first out of college, which may not be so recent anymore, I networked with Laura, and since then, through eventually working with her husband, Ed, we've become very good friends. Our friendship and the knowledge that Laura retired and in her second career, or sunset career if you will, became an endorsed humanist celebrant is how and why Stef and I chose to reach out to her to help us become a happily wedded couple. This you'll hear about, and how she views her role as an officiant, plus the act of writing, reading, being bored, being bad, and much, much more is all coming your way shortly. But first, remember that if you want to discuss the episode as you listen or afterwards, you can find all related ways to contact Laura and myself in the show notes. You can see more about Laura and contact her on Facebook by searching Laura Eppler Celebrant or by clicking the link in the description. Don't forget you can see all of my writings and rantings on agentpalmer.com, and of course, email can be sent to the Palmer Files at gmail.com. So without further ado, let's get into it. Laura, approximately a year ago, in the backyard of the studio we're in right now, you married my wife and I. If I go back, say, 20 years and tell you, Laura, one day you're going to marry me in my backyard, are you, first of all, are you believing me?
I wouldn't fully believe you, but I wouldn't fully disbelieve you.
Okay, so you were open, you would have been open to it.
Yeah.
But it's not something that was like a checklist. This isn't like, oh, I want to be an officiant. I want to do this stuff.
I was looking at, knowing me when I retired, I wanted to have some kind of joy job, retirement gig, because I function well with a little structure in my life.
Okay.
So I actually took an online test on like kind of side hustles and wedding officiant, interestingly, was the top ranked thing, which kind of shocked me because I never would have thought of it. It almost sounded preposterous to me. Yeah,
it seems like, well, I mean, and I'm of that generation where at least the first, I didn't know anybody above me in that generation that knew people that were like, oh yeah, I just had my buddy go online and get ordained so he could marry us, right? Like, I think it was my kind of cohort that it wasn't a lot of people, but there were a couple people that were like, oh yeah, no, I just went online to get ordained so I could marry my friend or whatever. And so it's a little bit more realistic now, but even still, were you hoping for something when you took the test? Were you hoping it would be like author or like travel aid, like, or were you just taking I need to know what to do next?
Well, I was really open to something because I had done for my whole career marketing. At my role at that point, I was doing a lot of technical writing and marketing for high-tech companies, so which I enjoyed, but I wanted something a little different than that. Okay. I didn't want just continuation, because I think all of us end up part by choice, a lot by chance in some career path, and I think that there might be a lot of things in us that are left untouched.
Okay. Yeah.
That could be really interesting in terms of fulfilling whatever potential, reaching for the brass ring, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I just thought, well, what would be fun to me? I wanted to make some money.
Yeah.
But the money wasn't the primary driver. And it was kind of surprising to me. It was, and then I thought, well, I know how hard it is to start an early stage firm. So I wonder if there's anyone else doing this now, right? So that's when I did some research and serendipitously ran into Lehigh Valley Celebrants as a leader in the Lehigh Valley with that kind of thing, and reached out to the owner. We had coffee, and she happened to be looking for someone to take on some more work. She has a team of 4 or 5 or 6 officiants, and we just hit it off. And it was a feeling. I remember asking her, "Do you want me to bring my resume?" And she just said, "It's not about your resume." Okay. But that's where I was coming from.
Well, that's where you're coming from. But there was a list of results, right? So do you think now you've done it that
right.
this is your sunset career, your second career,
yes.
your whatever?
Yes.
What were the also what else could you have been doing? Do you remember?
I don't even remember. It really appealed to me partly because it was a little preposterous. I kind of enjoyed the reaction of people when I said, "Yeah, I think I'm going to be a wedding officiant." And to your point, because I've been doing this since 2018, so it's quite a while now.
Yeah.
To your point, it wasn't that common then. People usually look to religious individuals or justice of the peace or a judge or something like that.
Yeah.
And when I got married, I those were kind of the only 2 options. I had been to, I think, one wedding. I don't even know if anyone was being ordained. But the online people, the quality varies a lot. Some people are very good at it. A lot aren't. A lot don't know what they're doing. And a lot of times, even if their heart is in the right place, they maybe know one member of the couple far better than the other.
Yep.
So they're talking unwittingly more about the one individual they know better. So there's a lot more to it than I think as a guest of a wedding we would know. There's just a lot to it. And having in it after a while, I can see it. I can see it as a guest. I can see there's just so many things can happen.
So when you go to weddings now that you don't officiate, do you inside baseball it, or are you completely just lost in okay, I would have maybe said something different there?
I got to fight that, Jason. I got to fight that. Because I want to be supportive and I want to go in with love and openness. Because that, to me, when I think about why I feel like I'm pretty good at this, it's because, I'm a strong enough writer, but more of it is I'm really into it and I'm really joyous for the couple. And I think people feel that. Okay. Not only because, I'm smiling, but I seem to be having fun. There's an intimacy, but yet a performative nature to it.
Sure.
But it's hard to not I think all of us evaluate other people that do the same thing that we do.
So there is an amount of not only performance, but it's public speaking. And I know you were in marketing, but if I go back, high school Laura, are you on the stage? Is there any performance in your background?
Oh yeah, I was on the debate and speech teams in high school. I never did drama, intriguingly, but I've always been a little bit of a ham. I did, as I think I did the stand-up. I took a class in stand-up through Arts Quest, and that takes a special kind of courage. So you were never I mean. No, I didn't have the fear of public speaking.
Okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't be a great career for. I'm somewhat of an extrovert, but also I know some introverts that do this. It's you either like it. Some people would rather die than go up there and present a wedding. But there is an element that. It's not really us as much as we're talking prop. You're there to elicit an emotion. It's not about you. I even dress in a way that it's not about me. I dress appropriately, of course, but I'm not a guest.
You're trying to almost blend in. You're trying to blend in with the furniture, basically. Kind of. Yeah.
On the other hand, I want to be likable. I want the guests to say, "I really like her. She really knows the couple. She's making me feel." This is what I really love. She's making me remember feelings about my partner that were long forgotten that we need to renew. That, to me, that's the best compliment.
And you evoke that, obviously, because having done it for us, you met with us, I think twice. It
varies by couple. Usually it's we know each other well, but a lot. Usually it's an online meeting to see if I'm right for them, and then another online meeting right before the wedding.
And so you got our origin story, which I'm sure you've heard lots of origin stories now.
I have more than 150. Yes.
So do they? And they're. I would assume most of the time all fairly unique. We're not talking maybe every different as the grains of sand, but not a lot of these cannot be similar. Like very few of these can be similar.
Actually, it's interesting because you're right. Everyone's different, but there's a lot of lines of similarity among them. And honestly, like when I get, I got a lot out of you guys, but when some couples are just, don't like to provide information, they're maybe more reluctant to share things about themselves, or they don't like writing, because I do ask for some written responses that people can give as much or as little as they want.
Yeah.
So I can, after having done this so many times, I can get a hook and kind of build on it. And I'm usually right. Like, no, because I've done this so much, right?
Well, it with practice or with repetition.
Experience, yeah. So someone will say something like, a lot of times it's the man that's more reluctant to speak a lot. So, because, men are kind of not told to be very openly romantic and vulnerable. It's just kind of part of our culture.
It's usually, not to put too fine a point, when Laura leaves, I'll be romantic with Steph, right? But I'm not going to say what I would say. I'm not going to recite poetry when Laura's here, as an example, right? So like, there's just a level of intimacy intimacy is one thing, but there's a level of romance that is kind of behind the intimacy door where it only happens when it's the two of us. As an example, in most cases.
Appropriately. But it's also a very romantic day. And everyone has different levels of what they're willing to display to their friends and family. Interestingly...
And you've done, before we go further, ours was very small. I think there were, I'm trying to think.
10 or 12 people.
There were 10, I think there were 8 people actually, including you. And you've done bigger, right?
Oh gosh, yeah.
Have you done smaller than that?
I've done just a couple.
Okay, so you've done basically from like 2 to 200.
Ish, yeah.
Okay, so
even bigger. Like I've done 250, which is weirdly not as different from the 2 as you'd think, because it's really about. I mean, I'm aware that there's like lots and lots of people, but it's really about me and the couple. Occasionally I'll look when I'm addressing the guests.
Yeah,
but I almost kind of, and this is the ham in me. I kind of like it when there's a lot of people. Because it's like, I'm putting all this effort. Like someone, maybe I'm affecting. Because that's honestly what I want to do is like bring more love into the. This sounds so corny. But it
doesn't sound corny, but I will say like there's a part of me that like I don't like being in front of crowds.
Oh, and I respect that, and a lot of people don't.
That's one of those things where...
So it worked for you perfectly.
Right? Well, that amount of people. Like, even though, like, if we had 200 people, we would have known them all. But I don't think at a certain point that matters. It's just like there's 200 people looking at me.
You feel like funnily enough, when we were getting married, and I was very young. I mean, I was just shy of 24. And I remember referring to the guests as the audience. to the people I'm like, well, where does the audience sit? And they're like, they're not the audience, they're the guests. But I felt like they were the audience, and I felt very much like
you were on display.
I felt like I was kind of going through the motions. Not that I don't love and adore my husband, but it felt a little like I wasn't as present and into it. I mean, I was a child, and I didn't. Like, what did I know? But I mean, and I loved him, and I wanted to marry him. That wasn't the issue. But I wish I could have married the officiant for my own wedding.
That makes sense. I mean, here's the other thing. There is maybe now, with the prevalence of not only social media but media, movies, television, like there is an expectation of a wedding.
Oh gosh, yeah.
That is, I mean, we did it. 8 people in the backyard, right? And that's what we wanted to do. And there were plenty of people that were like, well, you could make it could be bigger. Like, I'm aware it can be bigger. We don't want bigger. It's not about that. But like, do you find that I don't want to say false narrative, but like that media myth of like, well, this is the big wedding, and everybody like we were in baseball jerseys. We weren't in a wedding in a tux. Like in a dress and a tux.
I've spoken Klingon in some of my weddings.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I think I offer as a professional officiant, because I can really cater it to the couple. I love weddings of all kinds, and I to me like that that's what it's about. Like whatever feels right to you. Bigger doesn't mean better. Bigger doesn't mean it's any more likely to be a strong marriage. And a lot of people don't like that. Like there's a stage fright, and there's like we make it really hard. I wanted to share a point. Last winter, I married a couple, and the guy was like, the woman wrote all these beautiful, flowery personal vows, and the guy could only be cajoled to say, I do. Like that was all he was saying. And then at the last minute, he asked if he could sing to his wife instead of one of the readings. I'm like, well, that's lovely. I was like, well, I hope it was a small wedding. There were maybe a dozen people, kind of about the size of yours. And he sat down and he sang I Can't Help Falling in Love with You.
Okay, yeah.
Which is and he's looking at her entreatingly. And I was like astounded. Like I don't think I've ever seen anything that romantic. So it was this kind of really aloof guy that just wasn't into the romantic stuff. But that was his language.
That was his way.
Those were his vows.
Okay.
The idea was to fulfill the legal requirement, because I don't know if singing that song equals fulfilling the legal. But I mean, he affirmatively wanted to marry her.
Yeah.
But so to me, like that's kind of the universe trying to teach me something all the time. And I'm constantly, even 150, 160 weddings later, I'm still learning. That I need to stop looking at people and making judgments. I still need to realize that there's so many different love languages, and to not, and I don't think I'm prejudiced about it, but I really just feel like I'm still learning all these things for my couples and all these different ways to love.
So I have to ask, your career was in marketing.
Right.
What did you go to school for?
Marketing.
Okay.
And I got undergrad and grad MBA marketing.
So were there any, I mean, based on what you just said, in a twist a little bit, you like sociology. Did you take sociology courses? Like you enjoy human nature. Yeah, people.
I majored in marketing because I was driven by fear, and I knew I could get a job fresh out of college. Like
you were driven by fear that, like, if you had done writing, you wouldn't have gotten a job writing.
Yeah, I mean, I was still am very pragmatic. So if I had majored in psych, I would have loved to major in psych or soc. But then you need to get a graduate degree, and my dad said he'd pay for graduates on me, and I didn't want debt when I graduated.
No, look, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I talked about this recently, though. I mean, episodes kind of all blur together for me about, like, college was great, but I think subconsciously one of the reasons that I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that again was because I was too comfortable. Like in a collegiate setting where all you have to do is get up and go to class, like read a book, write a paper.
Society gives you 4 years to kind of have fun, as long as you get good grades. Like you got to get the work done. But I mean, it's a really fun time. I'd be in college for my whole life if I could.
Yeah, I'd be a professional student.
Yeah.
A professional student. That would be wonderful. But
because it's fun and it illuminates. The reason I went with marketing is, to me, it was the intersection of the Venn diagram between business, something I can get a job in, and psych. Okay. And I thought about medicine, but I don't like the gross stuff associated with medicine. And I want to see people at their best. I'd rather.
Well, that's definitely not medicine. You're not seeing people at their best. Their worst, maybe, but not their best.
Exactly. So when you're in the business world, especially then, people were spiffed up, right? They wore their nice clothes. They just took a shower that morning. Everyone was presenting their very best self. I love that Camelot nature of the business world.
Okay.
Like let them do their gross things at home.
No, it makes perfect sense. So along the way, though, right? Like, one of the reasons I think you enjoy this, and we touched on it a little bit, is you get to write.
Right.
And obviously interview, I guess there's some journalism that you would have learned along the way, some PR, obviously, from the marketing side. But, like, have you always enjoyed writing? Has that been a through line since college? Because obviously what you do now,
it's write and perform.
Yeah, you have to like the writing part. I don't think that the performance part is enough to sustain you if you didn't like writing.
No, but a lot of it, and it is a lot of writing. And the answer to that is, and any writer will tell you this, it's a love-hate relationship, right?
All right.
And I'm not a procrastinator. You know me well. I go after stuff with almost a sick vengeance to get it done and get it off my plate. Like writing to me, like, oh, gosh, I have to write it. But then once I'm in it, once I'm in the flow, like it's super fun.
But
and I
only
love it.
when you get in the flow.
Yeah, and you have to force yourself. And the muse, she can be difficult to find. She's a fickle muse.
Yeah.
So the writing part is both my favorite and least favorite part.
All right, so I have to ask because from experience, I've reviewed books that were similar to each other, and I've had trouble being like, well, I already said this once. And I know we talked about every couple's different and their origin stories are different. But at the end of the day, there's a joining together. How do you write in a way where you're not like, well, I used this last week or I used this last month? Like, how do you tweak that stuff? So you're not just repeating no one else knows you're repeating yourself, but I don't think you want to repeat yourself.
No, I get bored with it. I mean,
is that what it is? Just it's a you don't want to be bored, so you just.
And I don't want to like one of the things that I'm pitching to them is that it's a fully unique ceremony. So I might have a sentence or a few sentences. Like sometimes I'll write something and it just feels very inspired, and I'm like, wow, I'd love to use that sentence again.
Okay.
So that's the thread of similarity, but I don't have like a template that I just take this paragraph, and
no, I'm just thinking because I know that if I'm reviewing a spy film, sometimes I'll start writing something. Well, this is definitely something I've written before. I have to, and I won't even go look for it. I'll just be like,
in your brain.
That has to get thrown away. Even if I'm misremembering, it's that's too close to something I've written before.
Yeah, and there's a lot of overlaps. There's a lot of similarities and differences. And it does get hard when you've written a ton of them.
Yeah.
But I have a low tolerance for boredom, which is really good because it keeps it unique. Because I can't just I don't know how, some officiants literally take a template and just insert a different, and that's fine if that's what works for everyone. It's not what I want to do.
Yeah.
But they just insert it. I would get bored out of my mind.
So I have to ask then, as a short aside, when I bought the house and moved in, I kind of got away from blogging for a bit, mainly because I bought a house and I had to paint it, and there's all these other things, and I was like, I'm going to make it a priority. I'm going to sit down, and for the next year, it was called my year of content. Instead of writing one post a week, I would do 2 posts a week, and for 52 weeks, 2 posts a week. I
104. That's what I get.
Overachiever. It was not 104. It was more like 112 or 120, right?
Yep.
So I overachieved. And then at the end of that year, it was a rotating year. It didn't start in January. I was like, I'm going to take a week off, and I'm not just going to take a week off. I'm going to take a week off from work and a week off from the blog. I'm just going to take a
total week off.
Total week off. Do absolutely nothing. I lasted less than 72 hours before I was like, I have to write something again. You have the
hankering.
It was I think it was a boredom thing because I don't think it's just creative, because I can get away with doing things that aren't creative, like just busy work. But I had set this decree in my brain that was like, all right, I'm not going to do anything. I'll read, I'll watch movies, but I'll be entertained. But I can only do that for I learned in that 70s, I can only do that for so long before it's no, it's time to do something. And I equate that to boredom, because you're just trying to fill the time.
We as humans need balance. Too much fun becomes, hedonism is not a good state.
But it wasn't even great. I was just, you know what I mean? It wasn't all fun for that. I watched a couple documentaries. It was just things to keep you
But you wanted
occupied.
to get something done.
That's the thing. I'm
right there with you.
But I didn't know that at the time. It was just oh, that's what, you know what it was? That's what other people do. That's what normal people take time off and they get away from these things.
Well, is it nature or nurture? That's the question. I personally think that we as humans, but maybe I'm just projecting we as humans want to get something done. Even if the thing is emptying the dishwasher, something accomplished that puts you ahead. This was actually one of the hardest parts when I was a young mother and showering was the accomplishment of the day.
Yeah. I as the father of a young child, I get it. There's always something to going on, and like, you know, there's a balance aspect.
Keeping the child alive for the day is an accomplishment.
Okay. Well, that's one, but I don't, you know, as low-hanging fruit goes, I don't know that that's enough. I also need to get some writing done or some editing done. Like, there's always more, and for those of us that have more than that, or that calling for more, it's like, I always equate it to boredom because it feels like just sitting around doing nothing.
I think that's individual proclivities. I have a strong hankering to get stuff done.
Okay.
And you do as well. Some people are cool with relaxing for a day. Like I have trouble, even if I'm on vacation, I want to make sure we get something done. Like see something or do something. I mean, get something done could be having an experience. It doesn't have to be unpleasant. In fact, it's usually pleasant. Most of my life is pleasant.
Well, I was going to say, but to the same tune, like, I mean, people listening may be like, well, writing doesn't sound exciting to me and editing doesn't sound exciting to me, but it is exciting to me.
And it feels great when you get it done, doesn't it?
Well, that's a whole different ballgame. Like the idea of checking off the to-do list or whatever, that is
way too much fun. We hate cleaning the house. I don't know if I can adequately convey how much I love having a clean house. Don't like the act of cleaning.
Okay.
But I like when it gets to a certain point, and it's never, you've seen our house, it's never really dirty, but I feel like it hasn't been dusted, hasn't been vacuumed in a while. And then it's almost blissful to me after we do it, and I hate it, you know, and you have that chemical smell or whatever, the vinegar smell all over. Then you shower and you have this clean house. You don't have to do it for a while longer. Take your shoes off when you enter the house. Keep it clean as long as you can. So the act of accomplishing is huge to me.
But it's not enough to make you do it more often.
No. So my drive is to keep it as clean as possible because I want it to at all times be clean.
Well, I also, there's also for this house, I'm with you. I don't like cleaning, but there's another like maybe asterisk to that, which is keep it organized.
Yeah.
So that when I do eventually have to clean, I just have to wipe down the thing. It's not like moving 50 billion things in order to do the thing.
Yep.
Or I can just vacuum. I don't have to move
800 things.
Yeah. And so it's the keeping it organized. And it reminds me of many years ago, I got dropped in on by a podcast. A friend of mine brought his podcast to my house unannounced. Wow. And it was wonderful, but it was also very surprising. But it was 4 guys that came over and we sat, Bill brought all of his mixer and his stuff and we did it live from my dining room. And I don't know if it was on air or maybe after or before, but Bill's like, your house is really clean for not knowing we were coming. And I was like, well,
that's how you like to keep it.
I hadn't dusted, like I hadn't vacuumed, but
it's always orderly.
But it's always it's organized and neat.
You don't have dishes in the sink at all times and all that.
Yeah, and that's for me. That's like the upkeep. That's like the
same. I want to step back though because you were talking about what I love about the officiant stuff.
Yeah.
And that part that I think what I love about it is I really love kind of probing and learning about people and having fun with people. Like when I meet with a couple that like I work with Lehigh Valley Celebrants, so I'll get a referral from Donna, the owner, and then I'll reach out to the couple. I'll share them because honestly, our price point is higher because it's a lot more than it's a lot of customization.
It's not just do you. You're married.
Oh gosh, yeah. There's so many, and having experiences. And you had an elopement, like when you have like a huge event with 250 people and they want lots and lots of love stories. It's very time consuming. Yours was kind of a modification because you didn't want a big long.
We wanted
thing.
It simple,
right?
Yeah.
So it was perfect for yours. Honestly, like a full meal deal for an elopement feels weird. Just like a very like a 10-minute wedding, if you have 250 people, feels weird.
See, you say that, and I've been in those 250 10-minute weddings, and there's not an unhappy face when the bride and groom walk down 12 minutes after the bride walked in, right? As opposed to the 3-hour ones where no one's happy leaving.
But one of the things and I completely agree, and honestly, we get a lot of couples who, because of their faith or whatever, the ceremonies are very long and they just don't want something that long. But there's actually research on this, and 22 to 28 minutes is the ideal length. Shorter feels like, wait, what just happened? I got married in like 13 minutes. And
Okay.
not only I felt that way, but a lot of the guests were like, wow, that was so quick. And we included someone sang and someone read something, I think. It just was very quick. It was a very short ceremony. And I remember thinking, holy heck, what just happened? Whereas 22 to 28 minutes, my goal, and I can tell when a wedding feels long, like I've done enough of these when I'm rehearsing them.
Yep.
I'll say to the couple, this feels a little bit long. I recommend you delete XYZ.
Yeah.
But what I love about it, so after like I get the interest, I share my price, because honestly, that's a big objection. Not that it's an insane price, but we're not at the bottom of the market.
Yep.
If you're looking for a bargain, I'm not your officiant. But if you're looking for someone who really cares about you and the ceremony is going to be memorable, and people are not going to be looking at the bar wishing I'd shut up so they could get a drink. Like, that's not what I get. I get people leaning in and thinking, holy heck, she really knows this couple. Holy heck, I forgot all these feelings I had about my partner. Wow, I didn't know that. Wow, there's a little giggle there. Not at the expense of the groom. I'm not one of those people who just beats up on the groom. I hate that.
You
actually.
could have. You know me.
Well, yeah, but that's not me. And despite the demeanor, you are a good guy. I would never do that. But I love the salesmanship, if you will. Like, when I meet them, I sit, and it's usually about an hour and a half, if there's enough interest. If we don't get along, I would say 99% of the time, frankly, if they are willing to talk with me, I land it, because it means they're willing to pay. Yeah. I don't mean to be crass, but...
And they're also willing to talk. Like, if you're... I mean, kind of like a bad podcast. If you get yes or no single word answers, you
can't do much with it.
What can you work? Like, oh yeah, there's great stories here. He met her, and she said yes. Like, it's not really.
There's not much. The proposal stories, he got done when he said, but there's always, people don't realize it, but what they don't realize is unique or cool. People are very interested in the behind the scenes of people's lives, because there's so much performance now on Reels and on
Instagram,
photos,
Facebook,
and all that
everything.
Stuff.
Yep.
Everyone's performing to present this great life that no one has.
And I get to choose the filter, right?
Yes.
So it's not even actually as it was. Like, this is now in black and white, and you'll never see that my colors didn't match or whatever. Like, there's always this
you can
layer.
Fix it.
Yeah.
And you have that benefit of hindsight, right? And you can go back and make it a prettier life. Like, if only we could do that. Have you ever said, I know I have. I've said something, and I could see by the look on the person's face that they took it, not that my intention was not to say it. And you almost wish you could hit rewind, and because you can't unsay it. And you can apologize until the cows come home, but you said it.
Yeah.
And you were temporarily insane. And then... but you can't unsay it, and then the person they can't unknow that you said that.
I don't know. I guess maybe it's the benefit of doing this, right? Like, it was a gradual thing, because starting the blog first, I was comfortable with, I wrote this down and now I'm sharing it with the world. Is the world going to see it? No, that's not how the internet works, but it's out there. And so I've shared my words, and that's one thing. And then doing this and getting on other podcasts and knowing that, like, I mean, and my experience was slightly different in that there were a couple early podcasts I was on where they didn't edit, and they told you that, like, what you're saying now is what's going out there. I've been there, so think about it. It's basically like live TV. Like, there's no going back here, right? And having that experience and not necessarily censoring myself, but knowing, like, well, you say this, whatever you say here, like, it doesn't matter what the question is.
That's exactly it.
You
can't take it back.
Let's go. And so, I don't know. I've had so much experience with, like, well, and I have, for this show, I have final say. I can edit things out, but I don't, because it removes so much context of, like, well, it's a conversation, so it's a volley back and forth, and you said this, and I said this, and
if I cut one thing,
and you refer back to
Yeah.
it, then I have to cut that thing or whatever. It's a lot easier to leave most of it in or all of it in.
Yeah.
But I think this is kind of one of those like, and you've now had experience, not just in the marketing, but with the officiant where like what you don't get do-overs at that point.
Right, which is a little bit nerve-wracking on your first few weddings because if you mess it up, you've ruined someone's wedding forever.
Okay, I mean that is a
but
very.
I try not to think about that. You know, and I had a lot of experience.
Is it still like you don't still?
Oh
think about
no! Now
you're comfortable.
I love it.
Okay.
That's my favorite part of it. But and I think this is like a lesson that the universe is teaching me. Like when I get on, honestly, a sales call, right? Like it's a sales call, and the assumptive I'm collecting information. Because I'm assuming, because most of the time they hire me. So rather than having yet another call, which people don't have time, right? So I'll get in and I'll have them just start telling me their story and I'll take copious notes, and they'll get to know me just, and one thing I do too is I'll share, it is about them, but I'll share a little bit about me because in the end, it's all about how they feel about me. Like as long as I know what the heck I'm doing, which I do, and I'm the brand that they want, like I like to be human,
as opposed to just this random stranger who's here, like, and I assume, maybe I shouldn't assume, but like, you go wherever you're needed. You know,
if they're willing to pay travel, yeah.
So well, but I say that because one of the first calls you and I had about this was during, and Stef and I have talked about it since on the podcast. We had a non-viable pregnancy, but we called you at the beginning of that non-viable pregnancy because originally the due date was going to be when we wanted to get married, and we just wanted to make sure you were willing to come to the hospital if that had happened, and it didn't. But you are a free agent, so you go. You end up wherever you end up, and sometimes you're outside, sometimes you're inside.
Oh yeah, I love it.
Big, small.
I love the more outrageous, almost the better. Because almost all of most people are marrying outside in a wedding venue. Some people marry in a park. I know I do some license signings just at a park right near my house because then I don't have to charge people travel, and it's a lovely park. It's open to the public kind of thing. But I love doing that kind of thing. Most of the time, people don't want to pay for destination kind of weddings. I'd love to do one, of course, but I'd have to charge them my cost to get there. So I have done for some friends. They've paid me for me to go a little further because they just really wanted me in particular. The hospital thing, I would have, we're friends, so I'd be delighted to do. I would probably do that for a non-friend too.
Okay.
But yeah, I welcome. I mean, to me, I'm at the point in my life that I'm trying to collect novel experiences a little bit, and do things. I mean, like the stand-up comedy thing was another example of like, what is there to lose? And one of the benefits of being a little
But not
older,
everybody is willing to say what is there to lose. Like,
right.
I mean, like that's. Are you aware of how unique that is to you? Like, because there's a lot of people who even like they could be the most well-traveled person at like 85 and they would still be like, but I'm not getting up there. I have so much to lose. And so you saying that is, I mean, that's not most people.
Oh, I know that.
Okay.
And I think that's true of all of us, right? I think all of us have special talents that we tend to marginalize because to us, like I'll say something, we'll just go write something about that. Well, a lot of people are daunted by an empty screen. Like I help a lot of couples write their personal vows because they have no idea even how to approach it. Like
a lot of people, and I guess it's getting worse now, and we won't get into why, but like a lot of people haven't written anything since college or high school if they didn't go to college. When was the last time, anybody sat down and wrote anything of length? I mean, you and I are probably too unique.
Or read a novel for that matter. Like a lot of people don't read a complete novel after college. And that
seems odd to me, but that's just because of the company I keep. Like I guess I'm lucky in that happenstance has made it so that most of my friends and most of the people I associate with are readers as well. So
and it doesn't make them bad people.
No, but it's just like you make that statement and I go, well, yeah, that's probably true. But in my own circle,
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, maybe not everybody's a writer, but everybody's a reader. And it's like, well,
yeah, most people aren't readers, or they read more in the nugget. And again, I don't want to be marginalizing most people, because that's kind of what the world is now. It's a quick digest. People don't have time.
This or that.
Right. But what I love about kind of a side benefit to me of the officiant work is I go into these, I shouldn't even call them a sales pitch, because they aren't. I go in and I'll just get in like, oh, I'm looking forward to it. I get to know this couple. And 98% of the time I click with them. I'm having fun. They're having fun. I'm getting some information to write the wedding with. And if that's not what they want, go forth and find someone else. Truly. And I'll even say that to someone. Like if there's a couple, I've actually written, funnily enough, I've written on a few that I'm just not vibing it with a couple. I wrote on one, I hope this couple doesn't choose me. Because I was getting the one-word answers, but they did choose me.
Okay.
And it was one of the best. It was one of the best weddings I did. They just aren't. It takes a while to warm up.
Okay.
And they were great.
So I have to ask this: do you watch romantic movies? Do you watch Hallmark stuff?
Well,
that kind of stuff.
Occasionally, but not to get fodder.
Well, no, not to get fodder. I'm just thinking in terms of like, well, you've done 150, 60, you've done more than 150, over 150. Yep. So you've seen like up close, in person, you've witnessed that kind of stuff. Like I'm only asking because, like, do you sit down at a Hallmark movie and go, well, I've seen better because I've experienced, because
well, everyone has seen better than a Hallmark movie. No, I see your point though. Yeah. Like, does it seem more contrived?
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. Well, the danger is also in the other direction, because it's so hyper romantic in most cases, and it's easy to look at your own life and think, "Wow, like what's wrong with me?" Like, what? And again, I adore my husband,
but you're it's
the pinnacle of romance.
Well, I was going to say, it's also, you guys have been married for
40 years.
So that's 4 decades, and everybody that you're has been married for 4 minutes,
yes.
Like by the time you're done and they walk off, like that's, so there's I don't know.
But, and as you've been in a long-term relationship, and as it ebbs and flows. And I think that that's what the value I bring in, that I talk, I'm not a therapist and I don't pretend to be one, but I kind of wish I was credentialed. I think that would be really cool to do.
You don't need another hat, Laura.
Yeah.
Like
no, but it'd be really, because I informally, I can say a lot of stuff, but it would be really lovely to do, because I know in some faiths there is premarital counseling and all that. I actually can connect my couples, but not too many of them do it. I don't know if they're doing it in another way, but just to have some of those conversations, because I do think that it's a good idea. Not only do you want kids, your attitudes about money, which are the 2 big argument points, but there's just a lot of things that it's good to kind of have some ground rules, not in any negative way,
but just to know. I get it. I've been talking about this recently, as far as like, obviously what you think of as normal growing up is vastly different than what everybody else's is.
Right.
Because obviously your normal is your home, and
the
your
world
home
is dysfunctional. I recently discovered.
Well, but it was one of those things where, like, in my house, we talked about religion, politics, and money.
Which you're
at
not
the
supposed
table,
to do.
Right? Like, and so, like, for me, and I didn't just go out and talk to people about that, but what it meant was later in life, when like my friends would be like, "How do you know that?" We're like, "Well, my parents and I talked about money," and they were like, "Really?" And like the idea that like I would question my own religion and that would be okay.
Yeah.
Or that we would talk politics and I could disagree with my parents. I mean, I grew into basically their platforms anyway, but that's a whole, but growing up, you're not
circuitous.
Yeah. Yeah. And so but at the same time, it was like, oh, no, like this isn't normal. That's not what other people do.
I don't think there is a normal.
Well, that's the thing. I think there might be a few outliers who think they're normal.
But usually they're the least normal of all. Like a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of times the people that think they haven't had not necessarily true, but a lot of people who think they had a normal childhood, they just are less self-aware that it wasn't normal. I mean, I don't know, that was a huge discovery for me. Like, I mean, I love my original family, and I always used to think we were all kind of a little weird, but now as I see my sons get married and stuff, and they really admire the love we have and the wonderful rituals and traditions. Like, that's kind of cool. Like, and I'm kind of I'm seeing now, well, we're not normal or average, whatever that means, but I'm kind of glad. I mean, I'm kind of glad we have some unique things.
Well, and there's the idea of, I mean, not just from your officiant work, but obviously with your family, everybody's got their own traditions.
Yes.
And so that's, maybe everybody celebrates New Year's or a New Year's in some capacity,
right.
but not everybody celebrates it the same way, regardless of,
right.
And so there's always like, all right, like I remember what growing up, the family tradition was, and then I moved out.
Right.
And like, and when I'm not living there, we can't do some of those traditions anymore. But I can only imagine that for you, the officiant thing was probably the best next career, despite how crazy it seemed at the time.
And serendipitous almost. I also did, because as an endorsed humanist officiant, I can do any life celebration. So I also did an individual past who happened to be the father of a couple that, I mean, I like all my couples, and some I just really love. And tragically, this individual died way before his time, and they asked me if I could do a celebration of life. And I was a little reluctant because it's a whole different gig, but, loved the family. We had a lot of time. Turning around a celebration of life when it's less than a week is a lot of pressure. So that doesn't appeal to me, because I would really, and honestly, it's not as lucrative because you look opportunistic if you charge honestly what you deserve to be paid for the amount of work that goes into it. But it was a wonderful experience, and I felt that I added in the best possible way, added dimension to their grieving process in a good way. I didn't
know, like I guess I never thought about like the other things you could do. Like
I've done baby welcomings.
Okay. I guess I just always assumed it was just wedding, but
that's 99% of my work.
But there is more,
right? And okay. We're urged to do more. I mean, some people do, and I've never ventured into this. Some people do, like when they change genders, they do kind of an acknowledgement of that change. Some people do divorce celebrations, coming of age celebrations, kind of like the bar bat mitzvah, or there's a Latino one.
The quinceañera.
Yeah. That kind of thing. You can do a secular version of those.
Okay.
Less of a market for it, honestly. Because then it's more, like, I think one of the reasons that the wedding officiant thing is the greatest part of my business is there's a legal component. Like, and one of the reasons I wanted to be endorsed is in Pennsylvania, it's a little unclear whether the online officiants are legal or not. Like in some... Like in some municipalities, they specifically say online celebrants
don't count.
Online officiants don't count.
Okay.
So I wanted something. I wanted to know that my certification was legit in all cases.
I gotcha.
Yeah. I love to worry. I don't need that to be one more concern.
That's fine. Well, we were happy. I think
I'm glad. I was happy.
I think we actually. Because Steph made me remember, but I think we wrote a review too. I think for you. I don't know. Maybe.
I can check and let you know.
So first off, for the record, we did write a review for Laura, though I generally have no idea what we did with it and perhaps never shared it with Laura in the first place, though I thought we did. So here it is, for the record. Getting married is an important decision, and so is choosing an officiant to make it official. We chose Laura, and not only are we still happily married, we were thrilled with our bespoke service. Laura guided us through everything, every step of the way. And she did. I recommend her to you and yours as I would to me and mine. But back to the episode. There is something very specific that Laura said at the beginning of our conversation that I love. Quote, "It really appealed to me partly because it was a little preposterous," unquote. There is something extremely noble in that statement. Most people would find the opposite of preposterous appealing. Words like reasonable come to mind, but preposterous? To admit that something absurd or fantastical is appealing, that takes some guts, and Laura comes right out and says it. And here's the thing, she's not alone. Not nearly as alone as one would believe, as it is just as preposterous that yours truly keeps doing this podcast. Honestly, I was comfortable guesting on shows and helping behind the scenes. It may be that I have my own show for the same reason Laura is now an officiant. Because for me, Agent Palmer, of all things geek I am, proxycaster extraordinaire, to have a podcast all my own, that's kind of preposterous. And it still appeals to me. Don't settle for the reasonable. Then again, don't settle at all. Unless, of course, you find the right partner, then get married, and perhaps Laura can do your ceremony too. Thanks for listening to the Palmer Files episode 158. And now for the official business. The Palmer Files releases every 2 weeks on Tuesdays. If you're still listening, I encourage you to join the discussion. You can find all related ways to contact Laura and myself in the show notes. You can see more about Laura and contact her on Facebook by searching Laura Eppler Celebrant or clicking the link in the description. The music for this episode was provided by Henno Heitur. Email and comments can be sent to this show at thepalmerfiles@gmail.com. And remember, your home for all things Agent Palmer is agentpalmer.com. All right, Laura, do you have one final question for me?
I do. So you've done a lot of these podcasts, and the common thread, it seems, is that they all know you, and there's some commonality.
Some of them didn't know me until I invited them on.
Okay, so the common thread is you interviewed them.
The common thread is just me.
Right.
That's it.
So you've learned a lot of things. You've been surprised. What of those lessons do you think might apply to me? What could you transfer to me that you think would be helpful, either to me as an individual or in my work as a celebrant?
I'll say this. One of the things, and you've already done it as far as your second career, is just do the thing. That's, I think, over the course, especially when I talk to creatives, regardless of the medium, whether it's music or the written word or actual art, painting, graphic design, doing the thing is the most important thing. And very few people are like, I should have waited. Right? Like you didn't wait. You didn't retire, wait a few years to figure out what's next. They overlapped and you went, I want to know what's next. And you actively sought out the next thing. So you just did it. That's probably the most important thing, because it's not, I don't want to say it's selfish, because a lot of people do a lot of these things for themselves. Yours was a second career. Mine may be the blog or the podcast but I'm most of the time, unless you're just journaling or just, keeping your art to yourself, most people are creating something to share. And maybe not for money, but just to share,
they're a legacy, if you will.
Yeah, for something. And I think that's a thing where the sooner you can start, the better. And it's not because you're going to be a success. But don't
play small.
I don't know if it's the wrong word, but don't romanticize it, because if you think about writing and you think about writing and you think about writing, by the time you write, if it's a letdown, it's a lot worse than had you started and went, all right, this isn't my thing. Maybe I'll try picking up guitar or, picking up a paintbrush. like do the thing now, and if it works for you, great. And if not, there's time.
What did you lose?
To figure out the next thing.
And building on that, like when I look back at my life, I mean, you know, I've had a lot of great luck, a lot of success, and some failures. But one of the things that I'm very proud of myself for doing is starting the second career, and I'm very grateful, as I said, to
but
Lehigh
that's
Valley
also
Celebrants because you know I jumped into something. I think it would have been 10 times harder to do it just from nothing.
But you also, I mean, you weren't thinking about like I think the thing that makes your story unique is that you didn't think about the second career halfway through your initial career, but when it was time to start thinking about it, you just jumped in.
Well, when I was raising kids, you're just trying to survive. When you're raising kids and working full time, you're just in survival mode for like 20 years. And then they're gone, and then you kind of enjoy a little bit of an exhale. And then you're like, okay, we're retiring a little bit. I know me. I'll drive myself and my spouse insane if I don't have anything. Yeah. And what could that be? What does that look like?
But a lot of people will wait. A lot of people wouldn't.
And then they never do anything, and then they become.
That's a whole different thing. But that's a thing that happens a lot of the time. And I don't want it to be. It's not procrastination. I think it's the opposite of procrastination.
Taking a breath. Yeah.
It's the I don't want to do it yet. So procrastination means you'll get there eventually. Maybe not right away, but you'll get there eventually. And I think a lot of people are afraid to start just to be afraid to start.
Well, it's scary. And, you know, like the consequences can be like, I say, what could go wrong? Well, I could go up there and screw up someone's wedding.
No, I know.
But here's the thing. Like I was mature enough in my career that I knew I wouldn't. Like I trusted myself.
Okay.
Like I knew maybe it wouldn't be up to my standards, but I knew it would be good.
But at the same time, you know, and maybe this is, again, we talk about like, this is not normal, but it's normal for us. You know, your capabilities, yep. And you know, like, well, I can do this, or I'm willing to try. And a lot of people aren't willing to try. And that's the other thing I've learned.
That's professional maturity too. Remember, I was in my 50s when I did it. I don't know if I would have. Maybe I would have, but would I have been able to do it in my 20s? I don't know. Maybe I would have.
But, well, there's an argument to be made that you would have, but because of for a different reason. You wouldn't have known any better. So why wouldn't you have? That's a whole different reason to do it.
True.
Because not knowing is often a lot easier as a barrier to entry. Like, well, completely. I don't know anything. Like, let's go. Stupidity
is actually, thinking too much has been the bane of my existence. But one of the things...
not just yours. There's a lot of us. It's called, I think that's how we end up as neurotics.
Yeah. No,
we thought too much. Or we're neurotic, or we think too much because we're neurotic. Neurosis.
I think a little neurosis is fun. Slight neurosis as a wedding officiant is great because nothing gets forgotten.
Okay.
But the other thing that I've learned, which kind of ties into this, is to trust serendipity. Call it what you will, call it, you know, God's plan, call it the universe. But I've had so many things happen in my life that were, I mean, you can say they were coincidental, but it's a little overwhelmingly against the odds. Like that I happened to have this weird test that told me something a little kind of offbeat. I reached out to, you know, one of the local leaders in it. She happened to be wanting to take someone.
And she actually took, and she had time.
She liked me.
Yep.
And because I got to be honest with you, like without her, I don't know if I would have done it. It's a huge deal. If there's one thing I learned in my career is to start something from scratch. There's just too much to know. It would have been overwhelming. You know, I gave in. She trained
you had a mentor.
Me. A mentor. She sent me leads. I don't think nothing against myself. I just don't think it would have happened without that. I mean, it's such a head start. And that serendipity, I don't know. I've had a lot of really luck. I've had a lot of serendipity work out for me sometimes. And maybe you make your own luck.
Well, but I recently wrote this, and I think I recorded it and released it too. Happenstance isn't just like what happens. It's how you react to it. It's what you do with it. Like all the serendipity, all the happenstance, all the universe stuff can put something in front of you. But if you don't take a bite, or if you do, maybe you weren't supposed to. Like it's how you react to whatever happens. you took the test and reacted with, yeah, it seems interesting. But you could have easily been like, well, what's number 2? Yeah. And right now I could be talking to you as I have no idea.
I don't even remember what number 2.
But I'm just, it is that reaction.
It could have been lingerie clerk. I don't know what it was. I don't
think you would have. Retail's too sedentary. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not. When we talk about it being different and, I guess, stimulating. And that lack of boredom, you need something that's not, retail where it's like the same all the time or whatever.
Oh, I agree. But what I love about it, and I didn't realize at the time, it's, hindsight's 2020. Like, there's a huge amount of similarity between what I'm doing and what I did in my 9-to-5 work.
When you were marketing?
Yeah. But this is kind of just a whole different, it's on its head, right? Technical writing is technical writing. And that's honestly where you can make more money because it's harder.
Yeah. No, believe me, as someone who I took one class in technical writing, I think I've used those skills twice in the last 20 years. And
it's not what turns you on.
I'm thankful to not have to write that way because my mind doesn't work in that way when I frame sentences and paragraphs and structure and story.
That was interestingly one of the adjustments I had to make with the wedding work, like to include in their like things that weren't sentences.
Adjectives, adverbs.
Yeah, just like I just did a wedding and I said something like disarmingly handsome. That was the sentence, like referring to how the bride felt about the groom. Like disarmingly handsome is not a sentence. There should not be a period at the But, people speak in non-complete sentences all the time. So that was actually, interestingly, one of my biggest adjustments. Like that,
well, you're right. Well, because instead of writing to be
oral,
instead of writing to be read, you're writing to be said. And that's a whole.
And it made it much better. Like when it didn't have to be, even like dangling participles, horrors like that, where it actually made the writing and made the presentations better because you had them. And I got to tell you, the thing I love most, other than the couples being really into it, you can feel the vibe. But like when you can feel the audience in it and you can tell, you can look at them, you can feel the energy, you can feel them leaning in.
But now as well how to write a pause into something.
And the pacing is part of it too.
Which is also kind of that, well, disarmingly handsome. There might be more there, but you won't have to say it either, which is the other thing.
Just stop and then wait, and then there's like a nervous giggle, but everyone loves it, right? So you have that. I mean,
this is the problem with the podcast. I have a hard time with space. It's the truth because it is dead air, and unlike the performance and being medium. Up there, it's and I always joke that I have a friend who, when one of my first guest appearances with him, I didn't get to say anything because like anytime I would give space, he would jump in because like dead air is a bad thing. And I don't know, I edit this show, but I leave some space in there because I think people need to get used to that. There's ongoing
never space when we converse, Jason. But
well, that's true. But I also think a lot of people need to hear that the cogs are turning, like the wheels are moving in the brain, and I will get the thought out. And this is where we get likes, and
yeah.
But just saying nothing
is okay.
Is okay, perfectly fine. Not for you and me. I get it. We're different, but that's fine. That's
my
for other people.
My husband says that everyone has a certain number of words they're allowed to say in life, and I've already surpassed my allotment.
I'm sure I've surpassed my allotment too. It's fine. We're borrowing on other people.
Yes, the quiet ones. No, but interestingly, I have done weddings because I can feel it when they're with me, and sometimes they're just not that. Sometimes the group really just wants to get a drink. The couple just wanted to get married. Nothing against me, but they want the celebration. They just want a pretty ceremony. And it doesn't have to be deep and meaningful. And maybe they express their love differently. Like they're not with the grand depth, they're more people of action, like acts of service,
Sure.
like the guy will plant flowers to show his love for the woman rather than bring her flowers, this kind of thing. And that can be very deep, but so I have to be willing to run with that too, that not every ceremony is going to be this momentous. I go home and I feel like I've discovered a new element in the depths of my romantic soul.